why you feel shame after an avoidant discard, and why you keep ruminating. Let an old man tell you something. One of the hardest parts about being discarded by someone avoidant is not just that they left, it is how they left. It is the silence, the sudden emotional distance, the shift from warmth to confusion, the way someone can once make you feel chosen and then turn around and make you feel like you imagined the whole connection. And when that happens, a very painful thing begins inside of you. You do not just grieve them, you start questioning yourself. You start asking, what did I do wrong? Was I too much? Did I scare them away? Did I love too hard? Did I miss the signs? Were they ever really attached to me? And before you know it, you are not just heartbroken. You are ashamed. You are embarrassed that you cared, embarrassed that you tried, embarrassed that you explained yourself, embarrassed that you sent the message, embarrassed that you waited for a response, embarrassed that a person who could not stay consistent still has so much space in your mind. But listen to me carefully. Shame after an avoidant discard does not mean you were foolish. It means your nervous system is trying to make sense of something that did not make emotional sense. Because when someone leaves with clarity, it hurts. But when someone leaves with confusion, it haunts. That is why you keep replaying it. You are not weak. You are trying to solve an ending that was never fully explained to you. And the mind does not like open loops. The mind wants a beginning, a middle, and an end. But avoidant endings often do not give you that. They give you mixed signals. They give you silence. They give you distance. They give you vague words like, I need space. I cannot do this right now. I do not know what I want. You did nothing wrong. It is not you. But then they leave you feeling like it was you. And that is where the loop begins. The loop usually starts with confusion. Something changed. Their energy shifted. They pulled back. They stopped showing up the way they used to. They became colder, shorter, busier, less emotionally available. And because you remember how they used to be, your mind starts searching for the moment everything went wrong. You go back to the last conversation, the last text, the last time you were vulnerable, the last time you asked for reassurance, the last time you expressed a need. And you wonder, was that it? Was that the moment they stopped seeing me the same? Now shame enters the room. Because shame always tries to make pain personal. Pain says, this hurts. But shame says, this hurts because something is wrong with me. That is a very different wound, because now you are not just missing them, you are judging yourself for missing them. You are not just grieving the connection, you are criticizing yourself for being affected by it. And that is why an avoidant discard can feel so emotionally addictive. Not because the person was always good for you, but because the ending created a mystery. And mystery keeps the mind attached. When someone gives you love, closeness, attention, and tenderness, and then suddenly pulls it away, your brain starts trying to get back to the version of them that felt safe. The warm version, the interested version, the version that made you feel seen, the version that made you believe something meaningful was happening. So you keep ruminating. Not always because you want them back, sometimes because you want proof that the connection mattered. You want proof that you were not crazy, proof that they felt it too, proof that they did not just use you, erase you, or forget you. That is a deep human need. When someone disappears emotionally, the heart starts looking for evidence. Did they mean what they said? Do they miss me? Are they thinking about me? Were they scared? Are they avoidant, or did they just not care? And here is where you have to be careful, because sometimes the question is not really, do they miss me? Sometimes the deeper question is, was I worth missing? And that is why shame hurts so badly, because the discard starts touching places in you that existed before this person ever showed up. Old wounds, old rejection, old abandonment, old memories of being misunderstood, old moments where you felt like you had to perform, prove, chase, explain, or earn love. So when the avoidant person pulls away, it may feel bigger than this one relationship. It may feel like every old wound got invited back into the room. And now you are not just thinking about them. You are thinking about your worth. You are thinking about your desirability, your lovability, your ability to keep people close. That is the trap. The avoidant person's inability to stay emotionally present starts becoming your evidence that you were too much. But their emotional capacity is not the same thing as your value. Let me say that again. Their emotional capacity is not the same thing as your value. Some people can care about you and still not have the tools to stay. Some people can feel close to you and still panic when closeness starts requiring honesty. Some people can enjoy your presence and still retreat when emotional responsibility shows up. That does not make what they did okay. But it does help you stop turning their avoidance into your identity. Because after an avoidant discard, many people start doing something very painful. They start editing themselves in hindsight. They say, I should have been quieter. I should have needed less. I should not have asked that question. I should not have told them how I felt. I should have played it cool. I should have waited longer to respond. But listen, healthy love does not require you to become emotionally invisible. Healthy connection does not require you to pretend you have no needs. Healthy people may need space, but they do not punish you with confusion for having a heart. The reason you keep ruminating is because your mind thinks rumination will protect you. It thinks if you can figure out exactly what went wrong, you can prevent it from ever happening again. So the mind keeps scanning. It scans the texts, it scans the memories, it scans their tone, it scans your behavior, it scans their childhood, their attachment style, their trauma, their last relationship, their body language, their social media. But rumination often disguises itself as healing. It says, I'm just trying to understand, and understanding is good. But at some point, understanding becomes a cage, because the more you study them, the less you return to yourself. The more you try to decode their silence, the less you listen to your own pain. The more you ask why they pulled away, the less you ask why you are still waiting at a door that keeps closing. And that is the loop. Confusion creates anxiety. Anxiety creates searching. Searching creates self-blame. Self-blame creates shame. Shame creates a need for reassurance. And because the person is unavailable, you go back into confusion again, round and round. What happened? What did I do? Do they care? Should I reach out? Were they scared? Was I too much? Will they come back? That loop can exhaust your soul, because you are trying to receive closure from the same place that created the confusion. And sometimes closure does not come from getting one more conversation. Sometimes closure comes from telling yourself the truth without needing their permission. The truth may be, they were inconsistent. They could not meet me emotionally. They left me confused. They may have cared, but they did not care with consistency. They may have been overwhelmed, but I was still hurt. They may have had wounds, but their wounds still wounded me. That kind of truth is not bitter, it is freeing, because it allows you to hold compassion without abandoning yourself. You can understand someone's avoidance without volunteering to be damaged by it. You can have empathy for their fear without making their fear your assignment. You can admit the connection was real without pretending the ending was healthy. That is where healing begins, not when you hate them, not when you diagnose them, not when you finally prove they cared. Healing begins when you stop making their distance a mirror for your worth. Because shame says, they left because I was not enough. But wisdom says, they left because closeness asked something of them they were not ready to give. Shame says, I should have been different. Wisdom says, I was trying to connect with someone who could not stay present. Shame says, I looked stupid for caring. Wisdom says, my care was sincere. Their inconsistency was the problem. You have to start speaking to yourself differently, because if you do not, you will let their silence become the loudest voice in your life. And silence is not always truth. Sometimes silence is avoidance. Sometimes silence is fear. Sometimes silence is emotional immaturity. Sometimes silence is someone not knowing how to face the damage they cause. So do not let silence write your identity. Do not let their inability to explain themselves become proof that you were unworthy of explanation. Now, how do you begin to break the rumination loop? First, name what is happening. Say to yourself, "This is rumination. My mind is trying to solve pain." That one sentence matters because it separates you from the spiral. You are not the spiral. You are noticing the spiral. Second, stop feeding the mystery. That means you may have to stop checking, stop rereading, stop looking for hidden meanings, stop trying to turn every small detail into a confession. Because every time you go searching for a sign, you reopen the wound. And I know that is hard, because part of you wants relief. Part of you wants one little piece of evidence that says, yes, they cared. But you do not need to keep hurting yourself to prove something mattered. It mattered because you felt it. It mattered because you showed up. It mattered because your heart was involved. Third, bring the focus back to your body. Rumination lives in the head. Healing often starts in the body. Take a breath. Unclench your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Put your hand over your chest and remind yourself, I am safe right now. Because your nervous system may be reacting like the rejection is still happening. Even when the person is not in the room. Even when the conversation is over. Even when days or weeks have passed. Your body may still be waiting for the next message. The next explanation, the next sign, the next emotional crumb. So you have to teach your body. We are not chasing today. We are not begging today. We are not abandoning ourselves today. Fourth, write down the reality, not just the fantasy. Because when you miss someone avoidant, your mind may replay the best parts, the laughter, the closeness, the chemistry, the deep conversations, the way they looked at you, the way they made you feel special. But write down the other side too, the inconsistency, the confusion, the silence, the anxiety, the way you felt like you had to shrink, the way you waited, the way your peace started depending on their mood. You are not doing that to demonize them. You are doing that to stop romanticizing a connection that also hurt you. Because sometimes you are not missing the whole person. You are missing the version of them that made you feel chosen. And that version may not be the version they were able to sustain. Finally, give yourself the compassion you wanted from them. Tell yourself, I did not deserve to be left in confusion. I am not ashamed of loving deeply. I am allowed to need clarity. I am allowed to grieve. I am allowed to stop chasing someone who keeps disappearing. Because the goal is not to become cold. The goal is to become clear. You do not have to punish your heart for being open. You just have to learn where your heart is safe. And someone who repeatedly pulls you into confusion may not be a safe place for your heart to rest. So if you are ruminating after an avoidant discard, be gentle with yourself. Your mind is trying to find the exit. Your heart is trying to understand the loss. Your body is trying to calm down after emotional whiplash. But you will not heal by blaming yourself for their inability to stay. You will not heal by shrinking your needs until unavailable people can tolerate you. You will not heal by studying someone so deeply that you disappear from your own life. At some point, you have to come back home to yourself, back to your peace, back to your dignity, back to the truth. And the truth is this: you can love someone, you can understand someone, you can miss someone, you can even forgive someone, and still decide. I cannot keep losing myself trying to be chosen by someone who keeps running from closeness. That is not bitterness. That is healing. That is wisdom. That is you finally choosing yourself without needing them to understand why.